Hello, Juniata College graduates, parents, and faculty. Thank you for the opportunity to allow me to introduce a great man and my mentor, Mr. Howard Nathan. I am honored to tell you that I'm a strong girl standing before you, and I had a liver transplant at 10 months old in 2005. The new liver allows me to live a healthy and normal life thanks to the generosity of my organ family and organ donor. I am a junior at Archmere Academy, a private Catholic high school in Claymont, Delaware. Howard Nathan often says that he remembers holding me shortly after my life was saved by my liver transplant. I was only 10 months old at the time, so I don't remember being held. But I do remember just a few years later seeing Howard holding a loudspeaker to his mouth as he called out encouraging words to me, along with thousands of others who would come together for a Gift of Life event known as the Donor Dash in Philadelphia. I was walking with my parents and I was looking up. Howard seemed a towering figure and an energetic one. I knew his motivating words were meant for me and have thought a lot about them ever since. But I did not envision being given the honor to introduce him at such a special event as today. By the time I was 8, I was participating in what is known as the United States Transplant Games with Gift of Life's Team Philadelphia, which is an athletic competition for organ donor recipients. There was Howard again at the Team Philadelphia luncheon beginning our week in Michigan. This time, he was asking the youngest and oldest transplant recipients on our team to identify themselves with an Olympic clasp of the hands. I was the youngest that year as 8 years old, and I joined hands with the oldest, who was 82. I looked up, and in that moment, I saw Howard looking down, this look of pride in his eyes that was so profound that the moment remains with me like a picture. Over the years, Howard has never been far from my life, and so I can tell you these great things about him. He's a true problem solver, the kind of person who is always looking for ways to help someone else and to build a strong community. He's funny too, but you have to make sure you pay careful attention to his jokes. But they always have important messages, and he's a force, inspiring me to become an advocate for organ donation. I'm very grateful to my donor and their family and for my second chance at life. It's primarily because of Howard's motivation that I'm here telling my story today as an organ recipient, as someone who is alive thanks to the miracle of science, another's generosity, and people like Howard and my parents who helped to forge the bridge of life. I, like so many transplant recipients whose lives have been saved by organ donation and the Gift of Life, have tremendous gratitude and respect for Howard and his team. I'm so privileged to honor and share his contributions with you today. Enough about me for today. Let me tell you more about this great man, Howard. Howard Nathan graduated from Juniata College in 1975 with a Bachelor of Science degree in biology and pre-medicine. In 1975, he began his career as a research specialist at the Winstar Institution, a biomedical research center on the University of Pennsylvania campus in Philadelphia. Howard joined the Delaware Valley Transplant Program, now the Gift of Life Donor Program, as a transplant coordinator in 1978 and was promoted to his current role as president and CEO in 1984. Under his leadership, Howard built the Gift of Life into the most active and successful organ procurement organization, an OPO, in the world, having coordinated nearly 53,000 life-saving organs for transplant and nearly 2 million tissue allografts for life-improving surgeries. He is the longest-serving chief executive of any OPO in the United States and has established himself as one of the world's foremost authorities on organ and tissue donation. Howard pioneered Pennsylvania's organ donor law in 1994. It was so effective, it then served as a model for the federal law. As a result, hundreds and thousands of lives have been saved and improved in the United States because of Howard's vision. Now would be a good time for me to ask you to check your driver's license. Are you one of the nearly 5 million registered organ donors in Pennsylvania, or among the more than 150 million registered organ donors in the country? As a transplant patient and recipient, I hope that your answer is yes. As one of the most influential voices in the world for organ donation and transplantation, Howard has published more than 400 scientific papers and abstracts, presented his work in 30 countries around the globe, and is regularly consulted by national and international media outlets. Howard has provided his expertise to many prestigious national and international organizations. He has served as president of the Association of Organ Procurement Organizations, Donate Life America, and the International Society for Organ Donation and Procurement, and has served on numerous other boards throughout his career. He received an appointment from the U.S. Secretary of Health and Human Services to serve on the National Advisory Committee on Organ Transplantation. His advocacy and contributions to the scholarship of transplantation have been recognized with numerous awards from national and international organizations. He is the recipient of many Lifetime Achievement Awards and was honored with Juniata's Alumni Achievement Award in 2017. Now, Chair Staton, I am honored to present Howard M. Nathan for the degree Doctorate of Humane Letters, honoris causa.
Howard, by the authority vested in me by the Board of Trustees of Juniata College, and upon them by the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, I now confer upon you the degree of Doctor of Humane Letters, honoris causa, with all the rights and privileges thereto pertaining.
Wow. Thank you for this very special and wonderful honor. Thanks to President Troha and Provost Bowen, to the Juniata Board of Trustees, distinguished professors, parents, family members, and of course, proud 2021 graduates. Thank you, Oni, for your beautiful words. Could we give Oni a round of applause? I also want to say thank you to Oni's parents who are here, Fidel and Edith, to my brother Ben, and to my beloved wife Liz. Whenever I make it back here to Juniata, memories surge from when I first stepped foot on campus nearly 50 years ago and stormed the arch as a freshman. I think back to when I was a young student. I was that young kid who lived in the cloister, played club ice hockey, and sang in the Juniata concert choir. Don't worry, I'm not going to sing now. I reflect on the dreams I thought would define me. I think of what I'd like to tell this younger version of me about what he could actually do in life. I reflect on all I did not know. Today is an especially moving day for everyone here. Today I look out at all of you and think of these post-pandemic selves we're stepping into. We're here in person on one of the most important days of your lives, in person after months of Zoom and FaceTime. I don't know about you, but I watched my fair share of TV while sheltering in place. Liz and I binge-watched Schitt's Creek, Ozark, and even, I admit it, Tiger King with the rest of the world. During the holidays, I also watched it again, one of my old favorites, a 1947 film starring Jimmy Stewart called It's a Wonderful Life. 1947. Yeah, that's a really long time ago. Even I wasn't born yet. But bear with me for a moment, because It's a Wonderful Life is a genuine classic, full of lessons about seeing one's own worth, no matter how much hardship temporarily descends. There's darkness, like the darkness we've all been through, and then at last, there's light, full of second chances. I'm one of those people who finds meaning when the down-on-his-luck Stewart character, George Bailey, realizes how significant his life has been. George faced so many problems, he didn't want to live anymore. But with the assistance of a second-class angel to earn his wings, George sees the worth and impact that he's had on others. Indeed, had Stewart's character not lived at all, the world would have been a much poorer place, less goodness, less community. Can one single person really make such a difference? Do we all finally matter? Do we all have the power to make the world a better place? I lived my life saying yes, even when faced with some resounding no's. The life I live now was certainly not preordained when I was a Juniata student back in the early 70s. I arrived here a small-town kid from Johnstown, Pennsylvania. My father died suddenly from a heart attack when I was 9 years old, my grandmother a few years later, and my beloved dog Poochie shortly after that. I grew up in an 800-square-foot house that my mother worked minimum wage jobs in retail clothing to maintain for her 3 children. My mother's values became my own. Her belief that every choice you're faced with must be met with the determination to do the right thing. Do the right thing. Juniata combined all that felt familiar about my small-town values and community with something brand new, a chance to design my own course of studies through the new program of emphasis, which began in 1971. 2 of my first classes were modes of methods of inquiry and human existence. I still am trying to figure all that out. I ended up majoring in biology and with a minor in sociology, but Juniata allowed me to reap the benefits of a solid liberal arts education, enhancing my ability to think, communicate, and problem solve. I could also pursue my dream as a son of a Jewish mom, which was to grow up to be a doctor. What else? But I didn't become a doctor, it turns out. My life took me down another path. After graduation, while on a medical school waiting list, I actually returned to Johnstown and actually at night began bagging groceries again. During the day, I worked at a hospital lab. That lasted until my youthful honesty and colorful language got me fired. Yep, I got fired from my first real job. I was upset that because of lab errors, I was going to have to draw blood for a 4th time from a crying 2-day-old baby. In retrospect, there were probably better ways I could have handled that. Fortunately, thanks to my senior year class here at Juniata, I knew how to use the electron microscope and got a job as a research specialist at the Wistar Institute in Philly. After 2 years, I left to go to grad school in Pittsburgh to study public health, thinking that that might help with medical school admission. Frankly, that didn't work out either. What was it going to take, I wondered, to build a life that really mattered? What could this underdog from Johnstown achieve? Looking back, it's clear to me that I found my footing, discovered my possibilities as a person by recalling the bedrock principles I learned from both my mom and here at Juniata. First, respect, compassion, and fairness, because good work begins with goodness, and always do the right thing. Second, hard work, perseverance, and resilience. We've certainly seen the importance of that in this past year. Let's face it, sometimes the thing we hope for in life don't always turn out the way we want. That's why you need to fight for what you believe in. Third, appreciation for the others in our lives, because we're not living our lives alone, and what we do matters. Today, I have the good fortune of leading the Gift of Life Donor Program, and as Oni said, the largest organ donor and transplant network in the country. We've proudly coordinated more transplants than anywhere else in the nation. My transition from a young man around your age who had never even ridden a subway, let alone boarded an airplane, to someone whose work and passion have taken him to more than 30 countries began in 1978. I happened to see an ad for this unusual-sounding job called Organ Transplant Coordinator. I applied. I interviewed. I even offered to work for the first 3 months for free when I saw that the transplant surgeons I interviewed with weren't really sure about me. I persevered, fought for this job that combined my passion for medicine and people. I knew it was the job I wanted and worked to get to a yes, and I got the job. Suddenly my life was a 24/7 stream of phone calls, rapid responses, intense conversations, magnificent improvisations, and urgent coordination to design to recover organs and tissues from those whose lives had tragically ended so that others might miraculously live. A life, in other words, of second chances. It wasn't easy. I was only 24 years old and facing families who had just suffered the most shocking, devastating loss of their lives. How could I console them? What could I say? I learned from them the true meaning of compassion and courage. People who said yes to saving a stranger's life moments after losing someone who meant everything to them. Then I had to find a match for the organs without the many systems and advanced technologies we have today. The clock was always ticking. We did and still do whatever necessary to save a life. I often found myself driving down the Pennsylvania Turnpike in the middle of the night, or boarding my first ever plane ride or a helicopter to get a surgeon an organ that would save somebody's life, somebody's child, somebody's parent, somebody's husband or wife. I was on the cutting edge of medicine in the early days of transplantation, one of the biggest medical breakthroughs of our time. Frankly, this felt more exciting to me than medical school. I could impact change now. This was real. This was my calling, and I never looked back. The passion and urgency have not let up for the past 43 years. Grief and loss has always been near, but so too has been the joy of knowing that lives that might have been cut short did not. And there were many, many wonderful lives being lived because of the compassionate act, the gift of life. 11 years after I entered the field, my own sister went on the transplant waiting list for a liver. She waited 2.5 years, and by the time she got her transplant, she weighed less than 85 pounds. When she did receive the gift of a liver, her life and our family's lives were transformed in many ways. It's personal. It's always personal. It's why I wake up every day filled with that third bedrock principle, deepest appreciation. Appreciation for people like Cynthia London, who gave a selfless gift on behalf of her son, Sipo, a 22-year-old Kutztown University student destined to become a teacher, a young man whose life was cut short by gun violence. Cynthia's decision to save the lives of 6 people didn't end there. More than 20 years later, Cynthia continues to save lives through her ongoing organ donor advocacy work in the community and serves on my Gift of Life board. Appreciation for people like Oni, who you just met. I don't have to tell you how charming she is, how intelligent, and how generous. She wants to be a doctor, a pediatrician. She will, I'm profoundly certain of this, make a meaningful, lasting difference in the lives of others. None of this would have been possible without the kindness and compassion of a stranger who gave her a second chance at life. Appreciation for my tremendous team at Gift of Life, which has grown from 3 people when I joined to now 275 world-class, compassionate experts who work 24/7 to save lives. And of course, appreciation for all those who opened doors for me when others would not. Like the 5 transplant surgeons that interviewed me for that unique transplant coordinator position and finally saw in me things that I didn't even see in myself. Like Hilda Nathan, no relation to me, the very first person I met here at Juniata. Hilda was rightly famous for her compassion, for removing barriers standing in the way of students' dreams. If you've passed by Nathan Hall on campus, you've passed by part of her legacy. But to me, her legacy is deeply personal. She helped me secure a $1,000 scholarship and afford the $3,300 tuition. Yes, I said $3,300. It costs a little bit more these days to storm the arch. Hilda Nathan helped me make possible to come to Juniata. She helped put me on the path toward so many wonderful lives, a path that has led me toward you right now, celebrating this wonderful moment in your wonderful lives. Many of the people who have defined and given meaning to your life are here with you today. The friends you've made, the professors who's inspired you, the families who made it possible for you to arrive at this very proud moment. Think of your own hard work and the hard work of others on your behalf. Think of the respect you've been given and the respect you've given back. Think of all that you appreciate and all who appreciate you. Celebrate who you've become. Celebrate what you will carry forward. Celebrate the road ahead. Confront your no's and be bold with your actions. Celebrate your own infinite possibilities. Congratulations to each one of you, the class of 2021. And as you leave here today, holding hands, hugging, ask yourself, how many lives will you change? How many genuinely wonderful lives? Thank you very much.